We make a lot of noise going in these days.
Yeah, I know.
I went and checked
Right,
last
right.
episode. So, warning to those of you in headphones, that's going to happen from now on. So turn the headphones down going in.
Nothing better than a warning after the fact.
Exactly. So welcome to the Metal Lab, episode 76, where the X-Men discussion is finally starting to slow down, but not slow down yet.
No, it's
It is
happy release week, everybody!
Absolutely.
Yay!
Woo!
We have to milk these X-Men. Milk
Yep.
it good.
And I'm going to keep you guys vamping and yapping while I actually go out of my way to share the link for this that I haven't shared on the Facebook like I usually do.
All right.
So really only subscribers are watching live right now.
I see. Whereas everybody else gets to find out when they log in how great
Yeah.
the X-Men really are.
Or at least some of them.
It's funny to think that it is only release week. With the set having been spoiled a while back, all these pre-releases, and so much just general chatter around this set, with so much attention paid to it, and certainly us having talked it to death, and not yet even at that, that it doesn't feel like release week. Like it feels like the set has been out, and just now we're finally getting a chance to fill up our coffers with it. If we've got anyone who's gone to a few pre-releases already has their hand on the figures. We've been practicing with them and testing with figures already and stuff. Like it feels like it's a real deal. Now all we need is to cross the T's and dot the I's and pay the money and get the actual stuff.
Absolutely.
The money.
Yeah, give them the monies.
What is the money?
Get our FLGSs, their correct monies. On that note, guys, let's go in with our thank yous. We'd like to thank HC Realms for backing us. HCRealms.com, your source for all sorts of Heroclix information, be it discussion. The database of the unit section is probably one of the most useful tools you'll ever find in the game. And the forums is full of discussion, and there are regular articles from people in the community that like to chit-chat about Heroclix. So check it out at hcrealms.com. While you're there, click the shop button, check for some cool stuff, and while you're checking out with some of that cool stuff, put in the coupon code MARRIED for 10% off of your purchase. As well, we're brought to you in part by MajesticCCG.com, the first stop for finding out about all the major events that are going on in your area. They actually managed to jump ahead of HC Realms as far as rock news is concerned, short of discussion that occurs in the forum. So check that out, MajesticCCG.com. And if you're interested, $3 a month gets you into the Apex Insiders portion of the website, which has a great deal more articles written by some of the greats in the community, including such members as Ethan Brock, Paris Gordon. Mike Payne has written an article.
Come on.
And guys like myself also sometimes write articles too. So I actually just recently put a new one on adapting to rotation. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the pressure that you see, that you feel all this pressure of rotation, I kind of help you get through the steps because I've become somewhat cynical about it in my 15 years of it. I can't believe we're going to year 15 of this game, guys.
Well, you have a system. You have this whole system in place that's really easy. It's just like plug and play. This is what I'm going to get rid of. This is what I'm going to keep. And you just dump it all out, and it's quite amazing. Quite amazing to watch. I haven't even started doing a lot of that just because I have feelings about the thing, and I just don't want to go through the process in my due time, which is actually the topic of my article as well that came out a little while ago.
Absolutely. So it's watch the guy without feelings get rid of it all, and watch the guy with the feelings like I love it all. And see the comparison of things. And we're also going to be talking with some of the information from their site later on today. But on that note, guys, let's get into the news, which is a little short because it is release week. So this just in, X-Men is out on Wednesday, if you didn't already know. May 4th is the official release date of Uncanny X-Men. Probably the site myself, Tom, and Mike have been most hyped about since we've started the show.
Well, the funny part about I don't know whether who knows how much of this is true or false, but the generally accepted logic is that Marvel is doing whatever they can to pump up the properties that they have the rights for film-wise, and not so much suppress the other ones, but maybe not just feature them as often. And the funny part about the way that that's played itself out in a HeroClix form, if indeed that's what's going on, is quite the opposite of what would seem like the intended effect. It just means whenever we do get X-Men, we're all like, yeah, forever! It's so exciting. We only see them every now and again, and Obviously, Days of Future Past was fine, but it was very specific. It was largely characters we've seen before, and not as much at universe building.
It was
So
really small.
it really feels like just around the time Wolverine and the X-Men is cycling out, we get an exciting new X set to really sink our teeth into, and we've had the time to miss it.
Absolutely. So on that, we do have a little trickle of news, and that is the release day prize figure, or the one that is intended for your sealed events, in the form of Mr. Astral Professor X. I'm calling him Astral. As you can see, he's going to be see-through
He's the
plastic.
astral projection.
He's Professor X.
Yeah.
We can all agree on that.
Yeah. So he's got the Illuminati, New Mutants, and X-Men keywords. He's got a trait, let me help you clear your head. Adjacent opposing characters can't use the effect of equipped items. He's got a movement ability. Professor X can use phasing, teleport, and mind control. When he uses mind control, he doesn't take feedback. He does have some super senses, and then the rest is pretty self-explanatory as far as being on the PAC. He's got the X-Men team ability. He is 50 points, standard symbols, 7 range. Tom, you kind of caught it back. What do you think, Tom, of Professor X?
Well, I think it's weird that he has the X-Men team ability. I mean, I get it. He's an X-Man, but I always kind of assumed the X-Men team ability had something to do with healing your foes physically. I guess you can heal them mentally, according to this. Anyway, I think he's cool. I think that it's interesting he doesn't suffer feedback damage from mind control, because his second click is a good one to be on. So you almost wonder whether you want to get there sooner rather than later. I think it'd be cool to mind control somebody, have them go whack their brother, and then take a feedback damage so you get it wit. But you just do that through phasing, and close enough. And you'll need to, because he doesn't have running shot or sidestep. Which is also kind of weird. In fact, in general, this guy doesn't seem all that astral to me. He can tie opposing characters down. He can. He doesn't stop people from walking through him and stuff like that. So yeah, it's astral, but not as astral as we've seen before. Anyway, I'm dodging the point. He's a good piece. I think he's really cool. I think it's neat that he's got mind control and basically doubling down on that until you get the late dial in cap. Shape changer or super senses should always give him a rollout option, and towards the end, the willpower helps him stave off death. And I think it's very cool that he can shut down the effect of equipped items. Obviously, that's awesome. And very prevalent. There's an awful lot of equipment out there in the larger metagame, so why not shut her down? In general, I'm not excited as such. I'm just pleasantly nodding my approval.
All right, Mike.
I think he's great. For 50 points, like, what more do you want, really? I think he's very, very good. I mean, he's pretty soft in terms of his ability to withstand damage. But overall, for 5 clicks at 50 points, I think he is really, really good. And having that unique trait of adjacent opposing characters can't use the effect of equipped items is really, really good. For early game tie-up especially. So you get them across the board, you plant them next to people, and then you start mind controlling their own figures against their team while being adjacent for the most part. I would think that he'd be a great tie-up. And, I mean, we're going to go through a period of a lot more difficulty when it comes to making them characters, I guess, thicker or more resistant with retirement coming up. But there are ways of doing it. And, if you can pair him properly, I think he's going to be fantastic. The Illuminati keyword makes me very excited. I love the idea of using him and Black Panther together, possibly. There's also, pardon me, that although that Black Panther is going to be retired, I'm thinking of the Age of Ultron storyline Black Panther, the Black Licorice trailing Black Panther. He's very, very good, and I think he's going to become more meta. With retirement coming up as well, that particular character. Also, playing him with any one of the Doctor Stranges that have come out. We've got a couple different ones. We've got the OP Kit one, and then we've got the big D20 Doctor Strange as well. So there's a lot of options in terms of team building with this particular character. It's nice to add a little bit more New Mutants, especially since we're going to be losing all of the New Mutants pretty soon. I'm hoping that is an indication that we're going to be getting some more of it over the next little while. But we shall see. I mean, knowing the infrequency of X-Men sets, that may or may not happen, and would tend to lean itself towards the may not, when in fact we get I don't know how many Batman and Superman a year.
Well, I don't know if it's quite fair to compare Batman and Superman to like
many.
Cypher.
Come on, Professor X.
I like that Cypher is the one that you chose.
Like pull one out of the air.
Let's pick a very remote figure here to.
Can't go with like the '90s X-Force cast. Got to go with Cypher.
Yeah.
I was talking about Professor X and some other New Mutants.
Well, again, I'm saying New Mutants.
Like Deadpool, maybe? New Mutants number 98. Okay,
Sure.
Anyway, that's all I've got to say about it.
All right. I do want to add, I don't know if anybody recognized this. Me and Amber did do a double check. Equipped items does include possessors.
Oh.
Yep,
so
totally.
This could be, I mean, even though he's a softie, I was explaining this to Amber, you could get that ID card effective turning off that entity when it needs to be off. And if you can line it up properly, this could be that one turn where you can really do a ton of damage to this character. So this character does have a place out there, and it's going to be on teams where, or in situations where you can look at it and go, this entity is being a problem, time to stop it from being a problem and hit somebody while I can. So I really like this guy, especially at his point value because he's not too intrusive of your team. And overall, I think he is going to make some noise out there.
I think so too. Maybe a little splashing sound. What do you think?
Yep, a little sploosh of Professor X in
Sploosh.
Like Professor, it's gonna be a choice of like, is Pulse Wave more of a problem? Am I gonna put blue in there, or is entities, or are there a couple of possessors out there that are giving me a problem, and is Professor X going to fit that? Because there are a lot of equip effects coming from the X-Men set, which we're going to be going into great detail about shortly.
Well, so, those two options both fit on a team at a third of the points anyway. So you could have
also
both.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the new age pit crew. Is a little bit just more dynamic, interesting, weird versions of your traditional pit crew, rather than just who's got support.
Yeah.
Who has TK and support? Oh, I know. Let's go for a lab tech.
Let's do that. So, with that, last week a question came up. Somebody pointed out one of our shortcomings on this show, and we didn't talk a great deal about the Civil War movie set. So we thought we'd go a little late because, honestly, the set caught us off guard. I didn't even know it was coming out the week it came out.
Yeah.
So my pants were down when the set came out, and I was like, there's a Civil War set? I think I have money for it, and thank God it was a movie set. So.
You do those two things at the same time? That's weird.
Yeah, you know what? I don't even have to wear pants for work because I work from home, so...
I know.
What I think we're going to do, we're going to give our top two, bottom two, as... it's a small set. Usually we do top three, bottom three, but this is such a small set that if we did our top three, bottom three, we'd be talking about the entire set in our discussion.
We're including the starter in that as well, so it does expand the options a little bit, but
just a wee bit.
Just a little, but ultimately it is a small set. There's 10 characters in the hobby set, 10 characters in the Target's mass exclusive set, but the mass market exclusive has 4 different rares than the main set, and I think that really in this case rare is just pointing out the fact that there's these 4 fit in this one and these 4 fit in that one because they're a pretty flat rarity as far as the set is concerned. Yeah. Actually, and this was because there's only 10. You got a 24 gravity feed. You ended up getting like 2 sets plus 4. So, anyway, now that I've rambled on at length, so we're gonna start low, then go high. So bottom two, I'm gonna let Mike take the lead on this one.
Okay, my bottom two from this set, here, you know what, I will screen share. You will see some X-Men in this list here because I don't have 2 separate lists.
Just
spoiler warning.
Focus on the dial.
Yeah, so be it. Here we go. Okay, can you guys see that?
We will in a second. Yep. There you go.
Okay,
you might want to zoom a little bit there, and I'll have to lock Mike's screen here.
Okay, here we go. So, bottom two, we have the Winter Soldier from the main set here. I believe this one is. Yep.
That's the starter.
Oh no, sorry, that's the starter. Yeah, I found this figure in particular pretty unremarkable. It shares that same trait that they all do on that side. So there's the I'm with Cap and I'm with Iron Man. And the I'm with Cap is the optional. You know, it's one of those new +5 point traits which are well worth their weight, and that is when soldier can use shape change from range, or when targeted from range. And I just found him really, like, for 100 points, there's so many better options out there. His values aren't terrible, but they're not great either, right?
His
Cool
attack
thing,
values are. Otherwise,
yes, one cool thing he has is the range combat expert in that, and then when you push him, you get the outwitch, which can be very, very usable. But I don't know. I'm looking at this, and for 6 clicks, you can get so much more for that point value. I'm not very impressed with it at all. I mean, I don't really have to get into that too far because what you see is what you get. Now moving on. Ooh, wrong list. There we go. My other bottom 2 choice was one of the mass market exclusives, and that is for 125 points, Vision.
Yeah.
I just don't see why he's special enough to be one of the mass market exclusives that we can't even get up here anyway.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a little bit of frustration there on my end. I mean, of course we can source it with our friends in the States or buy it via eBay, etc. But I mean, at least he has indomitability. That is one plus. But once again, he's got in this particular case, he's got the Iron Man is right trait, which is Vision can use plasticity. But he's obviously not meant to use that plasticity with what he has here. It just doesn't make sense with the dial at large. Cool thing, halfway through, this must be where the 125 points comes from. But he at least gets prob and eventually 2 clicks of regeneration, and he has the ability to get away for that regeneration itself, and a little bit of pulse wave in there. But I mean, it's just values and
lackluster.
Why? Yeah, it's just boring. So that's my bottom 2. I'm gonna stop sharing here and pass it off to what, Tom?
Yeah, you want me to go? All right, so focus in on me. What I did for my bottom 2 for this one, I didn't have time to do it for X-Men because we added the X-Men a bit late in the planning process, and I was working.
I'll explain myself on that one when we jump into it.
That's all right. But for Civil War, I decided rather than just bashing my bottom 2, I would make suggestions on what I would prefer to have seen from my bottom 2. And so I generated some alternate dials. So first of all, I'm just going to share with you the dials of the pieces that represent my bottom 2. So let's go to HC Realms here. We are now screen sharing. And the first of my bottom 2 is Red Wing. Now, this seems like a bit piddly, right? It's only 20 points, and the question could easily be asked, what do you want for 20 points? And my answer to that in this case is more than this. It's not that it's bad. I kind of like the Avengers Initiative so that you can see through stealth when you want to give the free action to drop somebody's defense by 1. It's surprisingly tough with 3 clicks of life and toughness on 2 of them with a 17D, and it's an 18 from a distance because he's tiny, so he's not as easy to take out as some 20-pointers might be. And of course he moves around quite nicely with his speed and sidestep, and because he has sidestep, he's not necessarily chewing up your actions to move around the battlefield. So with all those good things having been said, what's bad and why is he on my lowest 2? Well, first of all, I'm going to condition this to say that I don't think that anything really is bad in this set. That's particularly true of the X-Men. There are some things I find less perhaps interesting, but nothing is really abysmal. What I don't really like about this guy is 2 things. Number 1, that I associate him more with working with Falcon, and I wish there was a little bit more synchronicity there. The only thing he really does with Falcon is he helps drop somebody's defense so that Falcon can shoot him. And that's true of everybody, but I still would have preferred something a little bit more specific, a little more interesting. And secondly, I just find it a bit of an uninspired design choice to just rush in and have a potential to drop somebody's defense by 1. A very specific version of Perplex. It's a unique modifier. It's a unique modifier, super specific variation on Perplex. That's kind of all he does. Just flies around, gets near your opponent's face, and buzzes around their head, dropping their defense. It's not, again, for 20 points, what more do I want? I would just prefer to have seen something a little more inspired. So I'll get to that in a moment. My other choice for the bottom is doubly so, and it is Iron Man at 125 points. Now again, what's wrong with this guy, we say? He does, he's a running shooting piece that has a decent range, not too bad attack values, and damage values do decline quite sharply, but at least he starts well. Impervious to start despite his low defenses. I just find this, in a world where we've had so many Iron Mans, there's absolutely nothing to recommend this Iron Man to me. And again, my problem here is not that it's a bad dial. It's just that it feels like a watered down Iron Man, and we know why they did it. If you look closely, the more perceptive of you will already have noticed the Iron Man and Captain America have exactly the same point cost and exactly the same base statistics.
Mhm.
Not the same range, but otherwise they're the same. So the same speed, attack, defense, and damage values throughout their whole dials. The only thing that differs between the two are their powers, obviously their traits, and otherwise. We know what they're getting at here. They're getting at, we want this to be the Iron Man that opposes Captain America in Civil War. They're the leaders of their two sides, so they're the same number of points, the same values and stuff. We know that's the concept. So, sorry, I'm just stopping sharing while I set up my other screen. So that's the concept with them, but the problem that I have with that concept is that that's not really how I see the Iron Man Captain America dichotomy working. I don't personally like the idea. I've always been a fan of the idea that Iron Man is demonstrably more powerful in that setup, and Cap has to fight from behind, and he is the underdog in that setup, and it makes more sense that he's there leading a team against Iron Man as opposed to just being unequal to Iron Man from the get-go. And so all they've really done is they made a great Cap, and they made a lackluster, watered-down Iron Man. And rather than really feeling like, it's Iron Man versus Cap in their purest form, it feels like Iron Man put on his junky old armor from the back of the garage for the purposes of bringing the fight against Cap on his best day. And I don't think I just wish that wasn't the design choice, or I wish if the design choice was, let's have them have the same stats and same point value, they made an Iron Man dial that feels appropriate to Iron Man choosing to perhaps hold back and focusing on leading his team against Captain America. So, with that being said, I'm going to share what I would have done differently. And believe me, I don't design dials, so everyone on the internet doesn't need to rip me a new one if they disagree. This is just my opinion. So, first of all, Red Wing. You'll have to look fairly closely, and I'll explain it anyway. The Red Wing dials are almost identical, but I've dropped the last click of his dial, and that is largely to maintain the 20-point value because I've given him more he can do with the clicks that are there. First of all, I've given him a trait called Falcon's Friends, which is just lame because I like alliteration.
You like the lame stuff?
I'm leaning that way. It's a trait, and it reads as follows: if your force includes a character named Falcon, Red Wing's move actions don't count towards your action total. So here's what I was talking about. I just wish that they were a little bit more triggered working with Falcon, because even though I haven't seen the movie yet, I have every reason to believe it's Red Wing, right? Red Wing and Falcon go together. I'm hoping they'll play with that some way in the movie, and so by way of emphasizing that fact, I've given Red Wing something that triggers along with Falcon. I've also expanded out the attack power, and it says now, give Red Wing a free action, choose an opposing character within 4 squares of line of fire, and choose one of the following effects. First one, unique modifier, modify the chosen character's defense power by -1 until your next turn. That's exactly the same as the current power is. Or you could choose B, friendly characters named Falcon can use improved targeting characters when targeting the chosen character until your next turn. So instead of just dropping their defense, you again have an effect that triggers with him working alongside Falcon, allowing Falcon to shoot through other characters when they want to attack the character in question. It also kind of works well with the aerial recon idea, in my opinion. Or C, the chosen character subtracts 1 from its shape change rolls until your next turn. If you select this effect, this is a power action instead. I'm borrowing that wording from the power batteries and the way of the forming wording, just to get the language right. But the idea being that rather than just drop their defense, they can also potentially take away some of their shape change success. It takes a larger action to do so because that's a more significant effect, but it also works with the whole aerial recon. So it just gives them more versatility. It gives them a little more they can do, and it emphasizes their ability to work with the Falcon at the expense of 1 click of life, because it seemed reasonable if you're amping up their powers to take something away from them. But they're still not broken at any point here, and I don't think that this really breaks the game. But it gives you some additional incentive when you're building your force to throw Falcon on there too and have him work with his buddy. And even if he's not there, it gives them a little bit more dynamic options when you're on the battlefield. So that's how I would do it differently if I were designing Red Wing. Now, how would I do it differently if I were designing Iron Man? I decided to stick with certain ground rules for this one, admittedly. I wanted to keep with the idea of he's going to be 125 points with the exact same stats as Cap. They seem to really want that, so let's keep it. I kept the same trait, the plasticity trait, and I also kept the same sort of complementary opposite dial designs in some respects. So he kept the leadership that adds tokens rather than, or rather, it's the leadership that reduces your opponent's values rather than adding to your friendlies, which is the diametrical opposite of Cap. I kept the range combat expert for the last 3 clicks, whereas Cap's got close combat expert for the last 3 clicks. Kept opening running shot versus Cap's opening charge. I got the feeling they wanted to create that sort of parallelism. But playing within that, I wanted to make it a little bit more of an Iron Man that is made to lead a team rather than show off on his own, and that helps to justify why his numbers are a little lower. So here we go. Top one is, of course, the Iron Man as he currently is. The bottom one is my new and improved Iron Man, in my opinion. The first thing you'll note is I've dropped the energy explosion. I found that I don't love energy explosion with one target, especially when you don't do penetrating damage. It really, again, it just felt like a watered-down choice. And you'll see as we go through the dial that I've given him more that he can do, so again, it seemed fair to drop something. The opening click, however, is very much like the current one. Running shot, 11 attack, 17D with 4 damage. I've added an extra target. So this guy very much comes forward for a big punch. With the Avengers Initiative shooting through hindering, he can get a big damage shot off. He doesn't have Indomitable, whereas Cap does. And that's another way in which it feels like they were watering Iron Man down. So I wanted to try to spin that to a positive by making his second click notably different than his first, so that if you chose to take the push, you could be doing it for a tactical reason rather than simply, you don't have Indomitable, so you're going to have to take the push. That sucks, and now my stats are lower. So now if you take the push, you actually are changing what you do. Go to sidestep, but ESD is taken over instead of invulnerability, so that if you're up against a bunch of penetrating damage, then instead you get some effective defense from range. I find this works well with plasticity because if your opponent has locked you down, your plasticity will hopefully always get away, so your ESD hopefully will be of more value to you. And at any rate, this is the point at which hopefully your whole team is going to run by you and lock down your opponents while Iron Man continues to lead from the back. And to that end, I've given him an attack power that is Iron Man can use Incapacitate, Precision Strike, and improve targeting friendly characters. I don't know if I've ever seen Incapacitate and Precision Strike together before, or at least I don't think of a lot of examples, but I think that they'd be an interesting combination. I love Precision Strike anyway, but dual target Incap with Precision Strike to make sure that the Incap can get by super senses seems like a cool combination. And improved targeting friendly characters speaks to this idea that when he's on his second click, the rest of the team is swarming in front of him to tie down the opponents, and he's shooting through them from behind, locking them down with Incap. That also works with their plasticity. It's all about locking them down so that he can, the whole team can take them apart before they get away. And that continues on for a couple clicks, and his late dial is very similar to what it is right now. Again, I wanted to kind of keep some of the design choices that were there, but it's worth noting that in this version, his 60-point starting line, rather than starting as just a watered-down running shooter, would be with that sidestep, Incap, Precision Strike, and improved targeting friendlies, so that he could shoot through his friendlies and get them done. This all means nothing. It doesn't matter what I would rather see, because I don't design these things, and I'm sure that if I were in any place of authority around these parts, I'd quickly discover why all my ideas are wrong. And I have no doubt that before too long, the internet will also tell me why all my ideas are wrong, so thanks in advance for that. But for what it's worth, my problem with the Civil War set can be summed up with, we've seen most of these characters lots of times before. I would like to see something that is distinct and interesting, and the lackluster traits are not enough to do it for me. Otherwise, they just seem like moderately good versions of things we've seen before. It felt very uninspired, and I wish it was a little bit more refined, a little bit more specific to these versions of these characters. And hopefully the next time we get a movie set, then that's what they will decide to do. And I've rambled for long enough. But I didn't do that for my favorites, and I didn't do that for any of Uncanny X-Men, so you don't have to listen through me blabbing about what I'd rather see. Yeah. Any longer.
It's all right.
And what did you do?
Well, in my bottom, one of mine actually matched Mike's, and that was Vision. Because Vision, they keep making boring.
Yeah, can't you make a good Vision? Like, at least once? Because he is really good. Like, he's a great character.
Part of that part of that is they keep making a consistent dial, and I feel like there's some kind of, because the dial is the same dial across the board. In this case, the only exception was the damage, right? In Age of Ultron, the original one that we saw, or the original movie one that we saw, was 100% the same stats on the dial. It's just a difference of powers.
Yeah.
I feel like there's somewhere in the point cost, like, well, if that click is the same as this click, then there's got to be an increase in cost of this click, and so on and so forth. That's speculation at best. But ultimately, yes, Vision is kind of boring, and I hate that because I'm a collector, I'm going to want to get one, and that he's a Target exclusive, which makes him difficult to get. On that note, what is with WizKids and War Machine? Why do they hate him?
Yeah.
And, like, if they make him, they either make him incredibly boring, or they make him interesting and not as good as that interesting version can be. I, of course, go back to the Age of Ultron OP event, War Machine, where we had this awesome dial that was 200-ish points that came with no Indomitable. Now we got 105, 110 if you pay for the trait for boring. So I mean, this is a soldier, guys.
What was free comic book day? Was he the one that didn't have Indomitable, or
Free comic book day.
Way back, there was a free comic book day. I believe War Machine. It was for free comic book day. That was super good. Anyway, I could be wrong, so you keep talking.
I think that was also in the days before Indomitable was the thing.
I don't know. It was right around that time. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I could be completely wrong, so don't even think that I'm a thing. You keep talking.
Anyway, so ultimately, this is a War Machine. I was just I kind of shrugged at. Now, it's not that it's a bad figure. It's that it's just a figure, right?
Oh, it's unremarkable.
It's just not exciting. But I mean that seems to be coming with the movie sets. So who knows?
Oh hey, check it out. I can screen share a better War Machine just because I brought it up, and here it is. This was around the time of Hammer of Thor, so when you see the way the stats drop away, you have to take that into account. But 137 points. Look at that. 12 movement running shot with 10 range 2 targets to deal 4 damage.
Yeah,
that was really good. And back then it was especially good. Take a hit, and he's gone to Psychic Blast.
Well, with power creep, that would be a couple higher for pretty much everything.
The damage values are consistent. It's really only at the end that he really falls away. And at that point, you got to heal up. But that was still the best War Machine you've ever seen. And it's funny that that's the best War Machine we've ever seen because that was around Hammer of Thor.
Or if there was a War Machine, it was on the same base as an Iron Man because those duos are always pretty good. But I don't want those duos. I want War Machine because War Machine is cool and he's a badass and he's a soldier and he should be better than Iron Man as far as the ability to fight. So that anyway.
Well, I think that they're always because it's a movie set. They're always making Rhodey that much worse than Iron Man. I mean he's a fun character in the context of the movies, but he's nowhere near as good a fighter as Iron Man in the movies.
Yeah. But at least then they could make him cheap and very punchy. They could make a dial for him that's less expensive and maybe doesn't last as long, but packs a big time opening salvo or something. But they don't.
Nope.
Yeah. So ultimately that was, and even though, like, we all say this is the bottom, what we consider the bottom of the set, it's, once again, I like to use I refer to it as the old Pixar argument, where it's like, for a period of time, it's like, what's your least favorite Pixar movie? Well, pretty unanimously would be Cars, but at the time, Cars isn't really a bad movie.
Right? Definitely, no, I love Cars. I'm alone on that, I think.
Yeah. No, I like Cars as well. Anyway, this is a totally tangent.
Yeah. Anyway, the point is that you're taking good things and comparing them, and we're trying to find what we would consider the bottom end. Though these figures, these ones that we picked out are just, we have our reasons for them not being as great as the rest. It's not as great as good, So
you bet.
As we move into our favorite stuff, we gotta of course input that caveat. So I think I'm gonna take the lead on favorites.
Go for it.
Reverse order.
I don't lead the way very often. So on that, I went. The first one, of course, you know me. I'm gonna go low points. I love having lots of figures on the board, and if you're not taking up too much of my room, I'm happy with you. And one of those figures that really stood out to me was the main set Black Widow. Because this is a 60-point dial. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
Darn good.
Crazy good.
So you got stealth that comes with the Avengers Initiative, which means she can move through that stealth and she can see through other people's stealth, which is important. She's got 18 defense with willpower, so willpower for at least 3 clicks is fair enough for a 60-point figure. And then she's got the special power that gives her exploit weakness and shape change. With those stats, she's pretty decently expected to hit a good number of figures on average, and she's penetrating them. And she can defend herself with shape change as well. My, how the tables have turned. And then you get into this late dial where she gets some flurry and some outwit with some precision strike. So you can outwit offensively, prevent a counterattack, while precision striking in most cases, because, at these stats, you're really trying to use the outwit to stop them from doing something later on as opposed to defending from something. So, and of course, she also gets the option to use plasticity to make her 65 points, and she ignores characters for movement. So she can stop you and then get the heck out of there, and then watch your friends blow up whatever you left behind. Overall, I like this character at 60 points, and she kind of stood out to me. Now, the next thing I want to highlight, and it was very difficult to choose one, but I went with one that just seemed super exciting. I went with the 45-point Black Panther. Now, I'm excited for an entire starter set full of 45-point figures for one major reason, and it rhymes with Schmidey Schmards.
It doesn't make sense.
You open up so much potential for just what the ID cards do with the entire starter set, because just about every character in the starter set, I think actually every character in the starter set has an ID card.
Yep.
And putting in a 45-point value for that character gives you so many ways of bringing it in, because at minimum you need a 45-point character to bring it in. Anyway, that notwithstanding, we have the Black Panther, who comes with he comes with traded energy shield and the ability to add plasticity, making him a 50-point character. And then he's got that special action. You can give him a free action, choose an opposing character within range and line of fire, and choose one to last until your next turn. The chosen character's combat values can't be increased, or the chosen character can't be given more than one free action. We have our Green Lantern battery, guys.
That's great. Great little takedown.
Yeah. Now, it's more limited than the Green Lantern battery because you got to pick one character, but there's a Nightwing out there that this might be pretty good against. There's a super rare Prime Harlequin that you're going to probably want to target with this. There's a lot of figures out there that's with the green battery going out, you need to mitigate some characters with free actions, and for 45, 50 points, this is a pretty decent one to choose. You can also go with his slightly bigger version, which still doesn't take too much of the bank and can also add to your combat potential. But even at 45 points, this guy can bring it.
Here's a question though: with this, the optional traits, and when you use them as ID characters, do you bring them? Can you bring them in at 50 points?
No,
can you bring them in? No,
so
it's just the 45.
Points.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I've recently discovered a ruling where the additional trait or the optional traits don't actually add to their point value for considering point value for game effects.
Really?
Yeah, that was a whole Facebook post about that.
Yeah, and we Amber went, or it got answered in the WIN as part of the clarifications. So there's not an actual post about it. You got to check the Erratison clarifications where they clarify that optional trait in this case, or the optional traits don't add to the character's point value. So, or don't for other such effects.
Yeah.
But you also won't be able to pay for it to use with an ID character.
Makes sense.
All right. So Tom.
All right. Well, let's get to Sharon, shall we? My top two were one was a shoe-in, and the other one I had to stretch a little bit because there are, as much as a lot of the set I found uninspired, there were also a lot of things I found perfectly decent. So first of all, that's War Machine. It'd be really cool if he was in the set, but he's not. My second favorite for this set is Ant-Man, and a big part of that is really just perhaps the fact that it's a new version of Ant-Man. And when I kept talking about being, a bit nonplussed by the latest version of XYZ characters, this is at least the first time that we've seen the film version of Scott Lang. So he's 55 points, and I love tiny characters in general. I am going to miss the ability to carry them as well as somebody else, but I am still a huge fan of carrying around small characters so you don't have to modify when you do. And as a guy to carry around, this guy is offering an awful lot of options. He can take shape change from range, of course, as with everyone else who's with Cap. And he has a trait that says that he can be given a free action, choose a standard adjacent friendly character, and that character uses the tiny damage symbol this turn. Also starts with a special power on attack that says that when he hits an opposing character, the hit character gains your choice of tiny or giant this turn. So this guy can, other than Hawkeye shooting him in, which is also kind of cool, but even when that's not happening, you can carry this guy in, drop him off in front of you, he can sidestep forward, now he's in position to use his outwit, or, and I guess before he goes, he can also turn the guy who carried him in tiny so he's protected from range. So it's a great little way of carrying somebody around and then making them small so that they too are protected from line of fire to a certain extent. In addition to that, the fact that he starts with 3 damage means that he can crack a reducer without even needing to outwit it, or he can just outwit it and deal a big old punch to the face. Sidestep for maneuverability, and towards the latter part of his dial, he becomes hard to take down close up because of combat reflexes from a distance because he's tiny. In Cap is a great power, and Perplex is always handy. So for really just having good support powers, a decent little dial, and some cool effects, I also like the idea of being able to get him in there, smack an opponent, make him into a giant, and then everybody shoots over the wall that they just put down. I like that idea. So that's Ant-Man in a nutshell. I think that he's cool. I don't think that he's broken for his points, and I don't think that he's necessarily, a shoe-in must-play, but I think that he'll have lots of good functional fun, and of course he's a spy, and we need more spies. And for me, I had a very clear number 1, which I'll bet that no one else is even going to choose, but for me, I just thought this was a shoe-in, and that's Winter Soldier from the main set at 90 points. I really, really like this character. First of all, we have to consider his improved targeting. He ignores hindering, and he can make a ranged combat attack against any opposing character within range and line of fire, even if that character is in an adjacent square. So you're not getting away from that RCE precision strike combination. Have I mentioned the RCE precision strike combination? I love that. 3 damage means he doesn't need to use that RCE on his damage at all. 11 attack doesn't mean that he doesn't need to use that RCA on his attack. He can just get huge numbers. You want a 12-4? You got it. 13-3? Rock on. 11-5? It's all yours. And it all comes with precision strike. That, to me, is great, especially combined with his 8 range and sidestep, gives him a 10 swing unassisted, and he's shooting through hindering and making sure that you feel that shot. He has the ability to take shape change from range, and again, when you're looking at that trait, you kind of want that to be on somebody that wants to stay at range, and Winter Soldier absolutely is that guy. However, if you do manage to track him down, start dealing him some damage, you may yet regret it. Normally, I don't like mid-dial super strength, and I still don't. But when he's got close combat expert 2 with combat reflexes, I'll let it slide because he doesn't need the object. It's just gravy. If you can pick up a heavy with this guy and then use close combat expert, then in conjunction with it, you can be swinging with an 11 attack 6 damage. You can be swinging with a 12 attack 5 damage. And even if he's unassisted, he still gets great stats because, again, close combat expert works great. I love the way his powers work together. And then if you knock him deep enough into his dial, then he's a running gunner with Psychic Blast, still 3 damage, locked across the board. In fact, this guy's stats barely move, period. And he's got enhancement to help out his team. So just piece by piece by piece. He has the Hydra keyword, which is cool, although I kind of wish that he had a keyword that would allow him to be played with Cap. I guess Soldier would work. And again, he's a spy, and we always need more spies. For 90 points, I just think that he's got an outstanding amount of output. I know he can't take it as well as he can dish it out, but the hope is that with his range being as great as it is and his power being as great as it is, he'll take you out before you even have the opportunity to get into his face. If you do, you may regret it.
Yeah. I think what took me away from Winter Soldier, I almost had him on my bottom list, but then I had to remember that the one from Winter Soldier, even though he was cool, wasn't that good.
Yeah.
So, and this one, as far as stats-wise and flexibility, is a lot better. So, yeah, I do agree. He's really good. He didn't make my list,
Yeah. RCE Precision Strike is, I think, what won me over. And Sidestep. That little trio works together so nicely that I got super excited and giddy.
All right, Mike.
Those are some great choices, Tom. I went with... Here we go. I really like the starter set Iron Man. I like him at 45 points particularly. I think he's very good for that amount of points. And at 95, he's still very usable. I mean, the set overall is relatively unremarkable, but I love his leadership. I think that That's great when you're under enemy fire, and you can roll leadership and then also place a token on an opposing character within line of fire. Very, very useful. And I may or may not take the plasticity for 5 points, but he's a stealth buster as well, obviously. I mean, they all are. They all have the Avengers initiative team ability. But yeah, overall, really, really good. And as Jason already said, and Tom's gotten into a little bit too, the 45-point versions are fantastic for ID card use. It's just a very, very nice addition to the game at large. Plus, I love scientists. Scientist teams are really cool. There are a lot of options for that now. And then, last but not least, I really like the Black Panther from the starter set as well. So both of my figures, my tops, are from the starter set. I like him at full points. I know Jason already got into the half point version of him, but I do like him at the full points. I think he works really, really well overall. And then you get into all of his various powers, which Jason's already covered, so I won't go on at length. But also, scientist, another scientist.
I feel like you're blinded by science.
I may be blinded by science. It's true. Yeah, not much more to say about it that you guys haven't already covered. So let's move on.
Avengers keyword on him. Is that a spoiler?
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, considering that the next Avengers movie is Infinity War, I think basically every human being is an Avenger for that one.
Yeah.
We got a problem. He's big, and his name is.
Yeah. What about Winter Soldier? The only thing that guy's missing.
Yeah. All right. So since we're in the midst of top 3, bottom 3 of new sets, there is one coming out this Wednesday apparently. And that is the Uncanny X-Men. We have all the figures out there. We've had our chance to put our hands on them, test them, play with some of them.
Yeah.
Some of them have stood out to us. Some of them are super exciting to be in our grubby little mitts. So we're going to be doing a top 3 and bottom 3 on this. And I do want to lead in once again, reminding you guys, like we said with Civil War, and this extends doubly for this set. Sometimes it's just hard to. When we say bottom 3, these figures aren't necessarily bad.
Yeah,
this whole set is very, very good.
Yeah.
I think that there isn't really a stinker, given the choices out there. You can argue with me, Internet, but you would be wrong in this particular case.
We have moved past the days of Ultimate Abomination and whatnot. Yeah, there's this set. This set really impresses me with the consistency of its design. We aren't, and not everything is hit and miss, or rather, things can still be hit and miss in this age of HeroClix. And in past sets, there have been stinkers, absolutely. We all remember Signal Man, lest we forget Signal Man. But there are no Signal Men in this set.
What about the best stinker ever, which is Condiment Man?
I like
Condiment King. Sorry, Condiment King.
I still like Condiment King, but I do not like Signal Man.
I love. You know what I like best about Condiment Man is Jason's reaction to us liking Condiment King. That's the best part of the whole thing.
The character will function in sealed and in constructed, and we were talking about sealed at the time, and I thought the both of you were drunk.
I never got a chance to prove it, but I tell you.
Yeah, we never did get around to that one.
That sounds like a grudge match right there. I don't
we
know.
have 2 grudge matches we have to work our way through.
Yeah. I'm not sure how you have a grudge match on if you pull it in sealed, whether or not you should use it. But anyway,
that's where we get the complication, because I never ended up pulling Iron. I was like, Iron is better than him. Come on now. And you guys both took a dump on Iron. I was like, really? Anyway, on that note, who wants to take the lead on this one?
Sure. I don't mind.
All right, Mike.
Start here. Let's
you
go.
get to start on the X-Men.
Are we going to do bottom first or top first this time?
Bottom first.
We will curse the darkness,
Yeah.
and then we will light a candle.
We start low and go high.
The darkness. All right.
Well, that's not it.
That's definitely not on the bottom of the list. Spoiler alert!
Mike is living in Bizarro World.
Yes. Me am good, not. Okay. So, I guess And yes, as we said before, none of these are particularly bad. I chose for one of my bottom three, Angel from the All New X-Men. I just find him relatively unremarkable compared to some of the other ones, some of the other choices, some of the other All New X-Men, in fact. Cyclops being one of them, who's fantastic. But in this case, you've got Warren Worthington III, and he is time locked, like all of the all new X-Men. Opposing characters can't use probability controlled reroll attacks made by or targeting this character, which is a tremendous trait in itself. It really is very, very good. He's 75 points. He has flight, and his special movement power is Angel can use charge. When he does after actions resolve, he can use sidestep as a free action and automatically breaks away when doing so, which is really, really good. It is. It's very good, and it allows him to use the other special power here, Swift as a Falcon. An Angel can use energy, shield, deflection, and super senses, so he can get away. And then they, in many cases, in this set, in fact, there are a fair number of figures in sealed that do not have move and attack, and so he can get away and actually guard himself against further attacks. So 19 defense from range. But compared to other stuff in this set, he really is not that good, in my humble opinion. Of course, X-Men TA, it's on like what 80% of the figures in this set. I think that was the actual statistic. 80, 82, something like that.
No, it's not that much, but it was.
It's a lot.
It was almost 50.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll move on. Second pick here, and I played with her. Is the number 23A Kitty Pryde. So the non-prime Kitty Pryde in this particular case. She's 45 points, and once again, still not that bad. She does have a 5-point optional trait, which is that stop click. That then switches to her prime version, the prime version being the completely see-through one, which is fantastic for her points. But the thing that got me here, I played with her in the pre-release on the weekend, is that really she's only used for leadership. That's pretty much the entirety of what I was using her for, is stepping back, doing leadership, and if I'd had the option of not including Harpoon on my team, theme prop tokens would have been good for her too. But in this set, because there's so many low point figures, having leadership on your team is pretty valuable, even though you're not going to roll it all the time. I ended up with 2 leaderships this past weekend. I had her and excuse me, the 85 or 90 point Cyclops as well, who has Psychic Blast and has a range of 8 with 9 movements, so you're ending up with a huge swing in this set for that guy. But anyway, in this particular case, really relatively unremarkable because she's not going to end up doing a whole lot, if any, damage output. She's not really pulling her weight, although her weight is only 45 points, so that's not so bad. The precision strike is a little bit redeeming, but once again, no range. You have to get right in there in order to use it. And she gets knocked down a little bit, and then you at least get the perplex out of it. So she gets to help out with some of the attackers or what have you. Moving from there, my third choice here. None of these are really in order anyway. Is Blockbuster. Now, Blockbuster, once again, is not terrible. 65 points gets you top dial charge with super strength and 18 defense with invulnerable and impervious at the same time. He's actually one of the very few people who is impervious in this, so that makes him a little bit better. But I just find him kind of boring. I find him kind of boring compared to the rest of the set. His trait is really cool though. When Blockbuster hits with a close object attack, new term. After actions resolve, modify all opposing characters' defense values by -1, until the end of your turn. So as the first attacker, him going in and smacking someone, and then making it easier for the rest of your team to smack people, is really cool. Plus, the Mutant Massacre trait is incredible. The Mutant Massacre, there are a bunch of guys, a bunch of Marauders with that Mutant Massacre trait, and it is really, really good. But yeah, relatively unremarkable compared to other characters, or at least boring, in my humble opinion. Like, compared to some of my top 3 that you guys will see momentarily. But with that, I will pass it off to Tom.
All right. It's interesting. My bottom 3 are share none of them with yours. Not that that matters one way or another, but I think it does speak to what we were talking about before, which is that there really isn't a squeaky wheel in the set.
Oh, it's a really good set.
Just about everything is good. Everything has its place, and even the things that we are putting at the bottom of our list. I mean, really, top three, bottom three makes sense because we want to be able to talk about the good and the bad. If it's not bad, then it's simply perhaps less versatile. And in the case of this set, that is doubly true. That if we're knocking anything, we're only really knocking how often we might play the thing, not whether or not the thing can be played, because there's absolutely a place for just about everything. However, that being said, let's talk about the trash. All right, so first of all, not Winter Soldier. When I was looking for my bottom three, I should contextualize. I quickly discovered that I had chosen one that was an X-Man, one that was a Freedom Force member, and so I decided to just roll with that and choose the worst Marauder. So my bottom three are, in my opinion, the least usable or the least desirable of the major keywords that we see in this set, and that's really just been an arbitrary thing. Now, the first one, I can easily see people disagreeing with me with, because it looks pretty good. Here's the Crimson Commando. For 50 points, you get an Indomitable. There's not a lot of that in the set, as Mike said. Brotherhood of Mutants team ability, that helps you move around without it counting towards your action totals. 4 range is better than none. Stealth, not a lot of that, so that's kind of cool. Combat reflexes. Combat reflexes and stealth is one of those combinations that's kind of, to me, like what Mike was just describing with ESD and no range. It always makes me want to be next to them but not be next to them, and be parked in hindering and wait for them to come to me, but then why would they bother with only 4 range? He's got a damage special, which is close combat expert and leadership, and when he uses leadership and succeeds, other friendly characters that share a keyword with him can use sidestep this turn, which is not bad. And he has the Freedom Force trait, which we all know is super good, which is that when they're given a move action, especially one that doesn't count towards your total for the turn, right, Brotherhood of Mutants? After actions resolve, you can use Force Blast as a free action. He's got some late dial prob. There's not a lot of that to be found in the set, and even the opportunity to regen up. So why on earth is this guy in my bottom 3? And I have to say, it's in part just because I just don't find that what he has works together all that well in practice. It looks all just perfectly hunky and dory on paper, but I really wish that when he had the opportunity to get sidestep, he could give it to himself so he could get out from under the plant that he's standing on, because otherwise he has to move only 4 squares. And between his slow movement out of hindering and his low range, you don't want to really put him in hindering at all. So that stealth is just mocking you, because at best you want to be standing behind the plant. But if your opponent can get around the plant and the stealth, it continues to do nothing for you and continues to mock you as he's shooting right past your combat reflexes. So you might as well just get in close and blast him away with Force Blast so that he can still not have use of his combat reflexes. Ideally, you're going to knock him into a wall and then follow up with Close Combat Expert, and I'll say that's ideally for sure. It's not that it's useless, but I don't. If he's he either has to run across the whole board, in which case the stealth won't come in handy, or he has to make his way slowly across the board, at which point, by the time he gets there, the rest of your team is already committed. His late dial is great, but you probably won't see it, because in most cases he'll be knocked right past, and that prob will only be there to help his regen rolls, if it's going to help anything at all. Again, not too bad, but not too good either. Yeah. This is, admittedly, when I talk about this being my bottom 3, this is by far the highest of the bottom 3, because he can do a lot of things that are good, but when he has charge, I wish he had sidestep. In fact, I wish this guy could move and do anything, the more I think about it. I look at him, and I wish that he wasn't so gosh darn stick-and-movie with low range and just...
there's one word.
Blandaroo.
There's one word in the second sentence of his special power that would make him
way better.
A fair amount better?
Yes.
Yeah, other. Exactly.
The word other, and he's
drop the word other, and this guy would be a completely different story. And that's what I said I was playing with the pre-release, and I was like, what would be really amazing? If I just put my thumb right here, and I'm going to sidestep now. The thumb being over the word other, in case that wasn't clear. It's all it would take to make him better would be that. But he doesn't have it. Anyway, he's not terrible, but he's just not that great. And of course, we keep saying that, but it's only because it's true. Second,
it's very true.
Second of the 3 of the characters who we shall not name. It's very funny because he knows my list. It's Harpoon, ladies and gentlemen.
I like Harpoon.
Okay, here's the thing about Harpoon. in my opinion, if you're going to have a piece that has no defense powers, that has no way of increasing their own defenses, that has no way of hiding from line of fire, then you have to fit into one of two categories. You either have to have such a great swing and such a powerful output that it justifies being able to get out there and get that big hit in before your opponent takes advantage. Or you have to be on my opponent's team scoring points for me when I KO you very easily. Harpoon definitely fits into the latter of those two categories because he certainly doesn't fit into the former. Sidestep is fine to stretch out his ineffective 6 range. Now, admittedly, he has a great trait. Well, 2 great traits, because Massacre, as already noted, is great. But I love Pin Him Down. When he hits with a ranged attack, the hit target can't be moved or placed until your next turn. That is really cool. It is neat that when he hits somebody, and absolutely with RCE, he can totally do it. He doesn't need to deal damage to do that. He just needs to hit. So put that RCE on your attack. You get a 12 attack to lock somebody down. My point being, I don't see him getting to use it. His range is so short, his sidestep is all he's got, and his base movement is slow as molasses. By the time he crosses the board, he will have holes in him, and he will have scored your opponent 50 points. Now, against an opponent that doesn't know what they're up against, then I think that he absolutely does have potential. And so, there's a bit of a caveat here. If your opponent looks at him and says 50 points, sidestep RC, that's not that good. Then certainly at that point take full advantage of the fact that they aren't paying attention to him. But I am giving my opponent credit to realizing that with nothing to help him out defensively and only a naked 17 to keep him out of the cold, then he will quickly be burned alive. So he is just, in my opinion, the least impressive of the Marauders. All the Marauders are kind of good in their own way. I was going to go with Prism, but then I was like, I like Prism's enhancement, and I kind of like the fact she only takes 1 damage from range. You got to get next to her. Sure, knockback damage kills her, but she's still got to hit something for it to happen. Now, Harpoon's going to get my dishonorable mention. But Loud, of course, the main event. Who is the worst of the X-Men? Well, let me tell you, WizKids made it pretty easy for me to make this choice, as they basically designed an entire character around the concept of dying and giving points to your opponent. His name is Thunderbird. Good car, bad figure. Look at this guy. Okay, first of all, again, not that bad when you first look at him, because for 50 points you get the X-Men team ability, you get Sidestep and Close Combat Expert, which do work together, which is great. It's the only type of movement attack that will work with Close Combat Expert. It makes up for the fact that he's got late dial super strength. Have I told you how I dislike late dial super strength? Well, let me tell you guys, I don't like late dial super strength. He's got his death remembered. Poor Thunderbird. I just feel like this whole figure is making fun of him. His death remembered when Thunderbird is inevitably KO'd. Oh, wait, they didn't write inevitably. That must be a misprint. When Thunderbird is inevitably KO'd, choose one. Heal all friendly characters with the X-Men keyword of 1 click, or modify the combat values of your friendly characters a keyword by +1 to the end of your turn. So he's like Santa Claus. He just wants to give something to everybody. He wants to give his points to your opponent, and he wants to give one relatively modest positive effect to his X-Men key.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that Santa Claus dies every year? That's really creepy, dude.
I just don't. That KO'd effect is not. Fuck. For heaven's sakes, the Marauders keyword allows you to KO an opponent and heal up. This guy throws himself under a jet plane, and all of your opponents get to heal up, or all your friendlies get to heal up, or you get 1 turn of modified values. That can be useful if you can, roll your death into your advantage. How often does that statement get said? But it is possible with him. That being said, I just don't think it's enough of an effect. If you could choose a friendly who got +1 of attack for the rest of the game, I would totally take that. Or if you had some other effect, but other than that, 1 turn of modified stats or a modest amount of healing, he could have been living and doing that healing with the X-Men. He didn't need to just throw himself onto the bus or the jet. I like how in this we ascertained that nearly 10% of the clicks in the set have exploit weakness, but this guy is the only one who has to kill himself just to use it. He can use exploit weakness, and when he does, KO him after actions resolved. I like how they call it punching a fighter jet. Again, it just feels like they're making fun of him. They could have named it like heroic sacrifice, or like giving his all for the cause, but nope. It'd be like fists versus plane. You decide who wins. So Thunderbird is hilarious. He makes me laugh, but he also makes me cry. I think that he's the least useful X-Man because most of what he does that's really positive for your team is throwing himself underneath a jet plane so that others can try to live. And while he's doing so, he just gave your opponent 50 points so that you could use exploit weakness once. I'll just equip the Hulkbuster part and move on. Thank you.
All right. Well, on that note, Tom, you didn't want to put him on, so I did. I put Prism on. And there's one reason I put Prism on, and it is because he's in this set. There are how many characters with the Freedom Force trait? Which means how many possible characters can deal him knockback damage? One of them has hypersonic even, so he'll be back to safety after he's done with Prism and scored 35 easy points, right?
Yeah,
so,
he's not good.
Now,
I'm happy to put him in number 4.
Yeah, in the pre-release, it was nice to put him in front of you and then let him die. From being shattered on the first hit.
Oh man, yeah, because like I said, he does only take 1 damage at a time from range attacks, and he also does modify his damage value by +1 for each adjacent friendly character with a printed ranged value of 4 or more. But that means you've got to form this wacky bubble of crap to make a 35-point character worth your time.
And when the moon is in the 7th house,
yeah,
so I don't like powers like that.
Yeah. So ultimately, Prism. He looked cool at first. It's like, hey, this guy's kind of neat. And once you get a good look at the set, he doesn't even survive in his own set. So
that's very true. Well, then again, neither does Thunderbird. At least Prism doesn't have a special power that says KO him because you want to.
Yeah. I mean, and
KO him to use a standard power.
But one of the things too is there's better ways of getting cheap enhancement in this game, and this is not the character I want to bring around for enhancement ultimately.
Agreed.
So, moving on. No, too early on that one. No, too early. But the next one I want to talk about is Beast. Now, much like Mike's choice of Angel, overall this is not a full-blown bad character, but this is a character who deserved improved movement and got leap and climb.
Yeah, that's true,
And even though it's traded, he's only got charge for 1 click and then he moves in the sidestep. So even to get him into a position, you've got to use leap and climb for mobility's sake, right? So if you want him where you want to go, you got to take a non-free action to do it. And already you're kind of leaving yourself up in the open. I mean, he starts off with combat reflexes, is cool, and outwit, but really his first click is where he seems great, and afterwards you're hoping that you're there. You had to get there here, and if you're not, well, this isn't going to get you there. And by the time you get here, I mean at range you don't really need to prob. He's mediocre overall, and just I knew that a lot of the things that I was originally going to choose were going to be on your guys' lists, so I had to kind of go a little off the color. And this is a Beast that I think could have been better if instead of leap climb, they just gave him some kind of improved movement. Even if it was just hindering, I'd be content with that. But
I like how it makes him sound like an old man. Do they still call me Bouncing Beast?
Except the fact that this is supposed to be the young Beast.
I know.
Which is annoying.
The irony.
So was he old from the get-go? Anyway. Beast overall, he's at best to me. And then we get into the character who's on both lists for me. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to start the next list.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. And that is Proteus, but he's on my bad list at his 200-point line. Because even though he's got a lot going on here, I was watching Amber in the draft format try to pilot this guy, and she was down to this stop click a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think she had a single game where she didn't see this last click, which means every single one of these clicks is easy enough to get through. And I mean, overall, even with his special power to deal damage near blocking terrain, you start to realize indoor maps, you can't get away from that in some cases. And it's cool, but in the end, the 200 points that he takes up of your team, you don't get enough out of him to get what you really should be out of this character, and that's why he kind of hits. He's not like the worst of the bottom, but he's definitely on the bottom of my list.
I completely agree. For 200 points, he is in no way worth it. He might be of some value to you in a sealed setting only because his dial is so thick, but once you hit the larger metagame, then he's laughable for his point value, especially when
he's got this 35-point value. Now, the 35-point line, all of this doesn't matter, except for that last click. And that's only maybe.
Yeah.
Because what you get out of this character is you can equip him, he's kind of like a possessor, but you equip him to a character of 100 points or less, then his effect is he gives them +1 to all their stats.
Super
and then,
good.
At the beginning of your turn, you roll a die on a 1 or 2, that character takes 1 damage. So, at the risk of a 1 in 3 chance of taking a damage, I get +1 to all my stats.
All of them.
All of them.
All of them.
And then when that character dies, the next available character gets it. And if I run out of available characters, well, I get 11 attack with Pulse Wave, 18 defense that can only take damage from close attacks, and probability control. So, I mean, there's so much potential with this, and we've already been working with it. So,
well, I mean, to be fair, you could have Prism for those 35 points. Oh, yeah, you might want to go Prism. I don't know how much you like the idea of getting +1 to all your combat values and then an amazing click when they're all dead.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, Enhancement.
I know, I could get +1 damage on my range attacks. So yeah, I'm okay with Prism. Now, as a heads up, when Prism or Proteus isn't 100% usable, you do have to be careful when building with that 35-point possessor effect. But if you're smart or you do your research, there's a lot of work to be done with Proteus that can make you smile very, very happy smiles. So moving on, we were talking about Freedom Force earlier, and I really like Mystique. I think I fell in love with her when we saw her originally.
That's Beast. There we go.
Yeah, I think you guys got some lag.
yeah, probably.
So Mystique comes with Sidestep, Precision Strike at the start. If you look at this dial, this doesn't seem great. Where her power comes is in her Shapeshifter trait.
Oh, she's so good.
She is super good.
She can use Shape Change and begins the game with a Shapeshift token on her card. While she has a Shapeshift token, she can use Improved Movement, ignore characters, and opposing characters can only target her if they began the turn adjacent to her. Almost like the Subterfuge token from Lex Luthor back in Trinity War, the uncommon one. When Mystique targets an opposing character with an attack, remove all Shapeshift tokens. When she succeeds using Shape Change, if she doesn't have one, place a Shapeshift token on her card. Now, do you know what isn't an attack? Force Blast. So you can actually use this character because I believe she ignores characters for the purpose of movement. You can use this character and disrupt so many positions and so many setups that your opponents have with little to no recourse from them.
Yeah.
So
she can win games alone. This is the best representation of a shapeshifter they have ever done, and I can't imagine how they could do a better one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, ultimately, I like the idea of being able to disrupt things when we've all brought that team, and it's like, oh shoot, I didn't build with stealth in mind. Mystique's like, okay, get out of the bush, you. I need to shoot you. So that's why that's one of the many reasons I like Mystique. She's super flexible, and when you are doing that move and then push them with Force Blast, you are not taking one of your actions because it's a free action to use the Force Blast. And even though she's taking an action token, the Brotherhood of Mutants says, nope, that wasn't an action. So I really do like this Mystique for just
she's tremendous.
Yeah.
I dig.
So my last, and mostly for pure fun factor and the way he looks,
cool.
is Sugarman.
Sugarman.
Sugarman is
Sugarman the Baker.
We're going to be doing this ever since the practice last night with the Superman, right?
Yes.
So Sugarman is basically a head with 4 arms with holes in them, and he comes with weapons.
Yeah, I love it.
Action figure, basically, where you put either the sword or the axe or whatever you're using with this character in his hands, and they have different effects. So we'll just go through this. The beginning of the game, this is one of the chases, so yes, this is one of the higher end figures. one of the Age of Apocalypse figures. What kind of slaughter do I feel like today? At the beginning of the game, if Sugarman was not equipped with any other item during forest construction, you may choose 2 of these 3 objects as described on the card: the axe, the hammer, or the sword. Sugarman may be equipped with both chosen objects. Sugarman's weapons, when on the map, Sugarman's weapons are considered heavy objects. A character in a square with or holding this object may be given a power action to equip it. If not equipped, this object can only be KO'd in an object attack. A character equipped with one of those objects may have one of the following effects. The axe, attack rolls of 10 to 12 count as critical hits. The hammer, when a character hits an opposing character after actions resolve, you may give that character an action token if your attack was 10 to 12. The sword can use Blade's Claws. He's got a special movement on his first 3 clicks where he can use Flurry Sidestep, and then he's got this special attack power, give Sugarman ranged combat action, make a ranged attack targeting a single opposing character in 6 squares in line of fire. The hit character is dealt 1 penetrating damage instead of normal damage, and placed adjacent. He licks you right over here. And then he's got a stop click where he gets 19 defense and exploit weakness, and he's tiny now, but he can't be healed. When this click is revealed, place any equipped objects on the map adjacent to Sugarman. When an adjacent opposing character moves or is placed after actions resolve, you may place Sugarman adjacent to that character. He basically becomes Despotellus with exploit weakness instead of poison. The pure fun factor of this character just excites me, and I had to go all nuts and read everything about him.
I think he's awesome. I love him.
He's a real wall of text, but
he's my number 1 want in this set, actually. Sugarman.
Really?
Yeah, he is.
It's not what he's called.
No, it's not. That's not his name, Michael. It's Sugarman. I was saying that the night of the pre-release, actually, our first pre-release, and Jay was kind enough to say, "Well, that's a Jewish baker's name." I was like, "Oh, that's nice."
Cool.
Yeah, last night we were at practice, and I was calling Superman.
Superman.
All right.
I like it.
So, now that I got us all laughing, Tom, what are your top 3 of the Uncanny X-Men?
Yeah, now stop laughing. All right. Now let me go through my top 3 because I don't have anything particularly witty to say. I just know they're super good. We are going to start with one piece that I feel like is just such a given that he might be the actual best piece in the set.
Oh, you bastard! This guy right here.
I'm gonna let
grabbed out to hold up to the camera when I announced him. You jerk!
Well, you knew he was in my top 3. I'll let you do most of the talking on him.
No. You go ahead.
No. I would rather hear you sing his praises. And we've talked about him before in the show. I will just give the bullet points, which are. He's outstanding. 110 points gets you so much in terms of attacks, the ability to go through other people's squares, attack them, lock them down with ice while you're busy attacking them with running shot, 2 targets to give him more options, X-Men team ability and Defenders team ability so you can share his defenses. His defenses are already high, or get somebody else with even higher defenses to share with him. Either one works. Great keywords. Champions, Defenders, X-Men, X-Factor, and X-Men will give him lots of options. Regen to get himself back up, and Barrier to protect while he does, or rather, if he chooses not to, I should say. And the fact that he ignores characters for movement is just the icing on the cake, considering his mobility and ability to go through characters and lock them down is the definitive factor. So I'll let Mike gush more about him later, but suffice to say, this guy is absolute dynamite, in addition to looking very, very pretty. And so he's a shoo-in for being on my list. Also on this list of mine, if I can find him here, yes. One of the first figures we ever saw from the set has turned out, in my mind, to still be one of the best ever, and that is the black costumed Magneto.
Oh yeah.
This to me, I mean, he's doing a lot of what the Star Labs tech already does, but unlike some others who just feel like a less effective version, this guy feels like a nice alternate option if what you really want is some starting sidestep TK that turns into something else as you go down. I love the Brotherhood of Mutants team ability anytime they can get it, and especially on a cheap figure to move him around without accounting towards your tokens can really mean something. Didn't you just take a dump on Crimson Commando? Quiet, you! He starts out with ESD and willpower, so the willpower is just, well, obviously the willpower speaks for itself, but it also gives you lots of options to keep you TKing. this guy can really make a career at a TK with the sidestep there as well. He's not just throwing your friendlies forward and into the fray. He's also getting into the fray himself, pulling your enemies back so that the rest of your team can attack them, pulling your allies back to get them out of harm's way. He's getting the most use he possibly can out of that TK, using it twice per turn, or using the first turn, a move that doesn't count towards your action total, to get halfway up the field, and then following it up with a sidestep TK that still doesn't take him off his first click, where, I should point out, his output is pretty good. 3 damage is respectable considering he's largely a support-oriented piece other than that. The sidestep gives way to sidestep and stealth as soon as he does take a push or take any damage, and sometimes you'll want to take that push because really staying on TK, staying with sidestep, staying with 10 attacks, staying with ESD and willpower, you're just going to pick up stealth at the expense of 1 point of damage. In some games, that's going to be totally worth it. And in the games where it's not, don't bother. But let's not forget his trait. Once per game, he can use running shot as a free action as the wing symbol for that action. That would be great in and of itself, but the fact that he's got Pulse Wave in the latter part of his dial really seals the deal on that to me. Sidestep plus running shot can really stretch out his range for the Pulse Wave, and the fact that you can do it as a free action means that it's very easy for him to sidestep, then fly forward, Pulse Wave your opponents, knocking them all around, dealing some damage, then follow up with his actual tokenable action, which is another Pulse Wave. You can double down on your Pulse Waves if you activate that at the right time, or if you would prefer, you can do an outstanding first salvo by TKing a friendly forward, having them make an attack, then running shot yourself and make an attack on the top. Lots of versatility and options open up with that trait, and otherwise he's just a bargain for 50 points. So I think that this guy is absolutely a great little beast, and will have a place on many of my teams.
Oh, yeah.
Now, for my number 1 slot, I am going to a Prime. I am going to a Kitty Pride Prime. And this piece, this to me is the sleeper hit of this set, although I don't know how much of a sleeper it's really going to be. I suspect that very soon we will discover that she's getting an awful lot of play because look at her. I mean, I could be completely wrong. It wouldn't be the first time, and it won't be the last. But I really, really love her movement special, which is Kitty Pryde can use phasing and teleport and stealth. When she uses phasing teleport, after action is resolved, she may make a close attack targeting all characters whose square she moved through. Hit characters are given an action token instead of normal damage. We talked about Iceman, and Mike will talk more about Iceman, and how amazing it is to be able to move through your opponent's square and make an attack that locks them down. She does that against everyone that she moves through. 9 movement phasing teleport means she can go wherever the heck she wants, and she can just go swinging through an entire team's worth of other dials. I love the idea of using this with a TKer, so that the TK just throws her up, then she just phases back, and along the way she crosses through 4 or 5 different characters' squares, then attacks them all, and gives them a token if she hits. To say nothing of the fact that if in that type of scenario, she's getting herself back to safety in the process and possibly near a prop controller so that she can make sure that attack sticks. I really think that that type of control, that super amped up in-cap on steroids that she can do if she gets into the right place, makes her totally worth it. To say nothing of the fact that, of course, she has a stop click that also gives her willpower. She has willpower in the back half of her dial, and there's a good chance she'll get to where she needs to get to with an 18D super senses and stealth, and of course phasing keeps her out of the line of fire as much as at all possible because no terrain will hold her down. So you're going to have a hard time taking this piece out when it's on its way across the field, and once it is across the field, it's just going to run right back again outside your range, tokening you up while you do. Rinse, repeat, over and over. If you do manage to corner her, 6 clicks means you'll probably take a couple shots to get through her dial, and even when you do, she'll stop, hit a stop click, and if she's got some way of healing, I wish that she had a TA that allowed her to heal. Wait a second. Heal right back up and just keep the fun a-coming. I think that this piece is super dynamite, and it's easy to overlook it because so much of it is tied up in that one power. But her synchronous, the dial just works so well. Everything works well with this dial. And if you do try to base her, try to hold her down, first of all, the phasing teleport means she won't be held down, but go ahead and base her and she'll exploit your weakness right in the face hole. So it's...
she'll exploit you in the weakness. Right
so,
in the weakness hole.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Also, she got the Guardians of the Galaxy keyword, and that's a nice thing for me personally, and it'll be a good thing in Golden pretty soon. But I will just I've said enough. Suffice to say that Kitty Pryde Prime is better than I think perhaps she may immediately get credit for. Yeah, you mentioned Jason put Phantom Girl 2.0 into the comments, and that's kind of true. But to me, I like her even better than Phantom Girl, frankly. And I think
that's why it's 2.0, not
yeah,
like
yeah,
the
exactly.
same or Redux.
Yeah, exactly. 2.0. Yeah, she is even better, and I love the fact that she's got the stop click. And now stop just means stop. It doesn't mean once per game stop, right? It means stop.
That's right. It just stop.
So. Oh my goodness, it's so good. So if you don't take her right out, then just use that X-Men team ability. You can go ahead and be right next to somebody and use that, and she'll just keep on stopping. And in the meantime, she'll phase away from you when you try to follow up, and while she's at it, she'll give you a token. Then she'll heal up. Then she'll give you more tokens. You're going to be cursing Kitty Pryde's name before this day is through.
You can't touch mine. Sorry. I'm not going to let you do that to me.
You can't touch
already.
He says.
Yeah, I have her actually right behind me right now. Anywho, I guess it's my turn. So I will start with. Let me just get it up here.
And then you'll put it on the screen.
Yeah. Okay. A Scarlet Witch, the Super Scarlet Witch, is one of my top 3. She is amazing for 75 points. I mean, starting from the top, we've got the Avengers TA and the X-Men TA. So, obviously, Avengers allows you to move without accounting towards your action total. One of the most underrated of the TAs, in my humble opinion, especially in this format, or especially with this set, rather. So in Sealed, you're going to end up with component teams, and so you need as many actions as possible. So the leadership is a very good friend, and the Avengers TA is a very, very good friend as well. Going directly down to her traits next. Actually, you know what? I'll hit up her keywords. I mean, a very standard keyword allows her to fit into so many different teams, and it's totally appropriate as, of course, Avengers. Lady Liberators is a little bit more rare. You can see here we do have quite a few people who do have it, but let's see. After retirement, you're still going to end up with a fair number of options.
Good She-Hulks.
Yeah, well, that She-Hulk is awesome. That's the best She-Hulk. Yeah, and I mean, with a close second being the one from the OP kit, which is right there anyway. So yeah, Lady Liberators. We've got Mystical, super versatile, along with X-Men, which is now going to be very versatile as well. And from that, we go down to the traits. When this characters get Avengers Unity Division, which is a common trait that we've seen in this set, or I guess it's a little less common, but it's really cool.
A super rare trait, as a matter of fact.
Yes, it is a super rare trait. Well said, sir. It's on her as well as quite a few other characters, including the Sunfire Prime. So when this character is given a move action, after actions resolve, she can use the X-Men team ability as a free action. Important thing to note here, just remember, please, that sidestep is not a move action. You are moving, but it is not a move action, so it does not qualify for this particular trait. Going from there, we have the Hex Magic with a K at the end. Give Scarlet Witch a power action to attach the Hex Magic marker to a character within range and line of fire, removing it from anywhere else. If that character is friendly, when that character attacks, a critical hit is an attack roll of 10 to 12. That is absolutely bonkers. That is worth her points pretty much right there. Aside from her actually having totally reasonable values and being able to attack on her own with starting values of 9, 11, 18, and 3. And a special power on the end there, and Precision Strike, of course. I love Precision Strike; it's so good.
For anyone who hasn't done the math, a 10 to 12 possibility of a critical hit is essentially the same as a 1 in 6 chance. Which, if it doesn't sound so good, remember that the chance of a normal critical hit is a 1 in 36 chance. So,
also,
it's a hell of a lot better.
I mentioned to the guys just now, but remember, I have a high rate of success with the Disintegration Beam. So that would be a high rate of success with critical hits in this case.
Yep.
Sorry, Mike.
No, not at all. Yeah, riff away with me here, guys. This character is riff worthy. The next portion of that is if this character is opposing, so the character that she's chosen, just to recap, then that character, when that character attacks, a critical miss is an attack roll of 2 to 4. which is incredible. Well, when Scarlet Witch is KO'd, remove the hex magic marker. So at least it goes with her too. Like it doesn't penalize your opponent beyond that point. So it's not like it's going to last beyond her death in that way. Now, moving on, we've got the special damage power as well. Winds of Magic. Scarlet Witch can use enhancement and probability control. Well, what else do you want? I mean, seriously, this is 75 points of absolutely effing amazing. Super, super, super good. The only thing that I would say is missing from her is a little bit of movement attack. But you know what? Honestly, if she had movement attack, she'd be 100 points. I'm happy with her at 75. I really, really wouldn't change anything. And the sculpt is awesome. The sculpt
really good.
So
damn pretty.
Good. It's the second best sculpt, in my humble opinion, in this set. First being, of course, that SR Iceman, which I will show you momentarily. Absolutely incredible. Throughout her dial, in fact, you have probability control the whole dial through. Yeah, she's only 5 clicks, but she's 75 points with a lot of bang for her buck. And she gets knocked down a little bit, and she ends up with Psychic Blast a little bit later on with ESD, so it's even harder to kill her on the end of her dial than it is earlier on to a certain extent. Because just having personally, I think raw numbers outweigh rollouts most of the time, but that's my personal preference, and she gets a 19 from range. So that's really, really good. And that's without having Proteus on her or someone else or something else that is going to survive retirement. But there are plenty of things with 18 defense, or plenty of possessors with 18 defense at that on those click numbers. So you should be able to, out of the remaining ones, be able to boost your stats even more, because we know that this game is all about stat boosting. So that being said, I will move on to my second favorite character from this set, and that is, I only put up the lower point one. Let me just pull him up here. Yes.
I think this is another reason why this beast turned out of my the beast that I chose on the bad list was chosen, because this beast exists.
Oh my god, this beast is so good.
Oh, look, he's got improved movement.
Oh my god! And I love the sculpt too. Like, look at this thing. He looks so cool. He's a later version of Beast as well, kind of more monkey-ish than he is the feral cat, the mangy cat version of Beast that we saw for a while there during Astonishing X-Men, which may or may not be given away at our tournament on Wednesday, actually, number 1 to 3. Let's see here. So, yeah, right away, okay, 100 points. Right? No, he has no TAs, but so what? You get so much for this. Great keywords. Avengers, Defenders, Sword, Scientist, X-Factor, and X-Men. I really don't even know how many characters you're going to get with Sword. Like, very, very few. So you've got Spider-Woman and Beast are your two choices post-retirement anyway. And right now, all you have is another Beast and Death's Head to go with it. So that's not very useful at the moment, but who knows? In upcoming sets, we may end up seeing a lot more, especially with perhaps Civil War set coming up. There might be a little bit more of it in there, or anyway, any Marvel set will have that option. So Defenders being a big one. Defenders is huge because not only does Beast have that, so does Iceman from this set, the SR Iceman, and one of the sexiest sculpts ever, that Namor from Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh my God, sploosh! And Nighthawk, the regular Nighthawk, or the SR Nighthawk from that set as well, who is actually very, very good for his points as well. That being said, moving back over here, we've got the improvements. He's got acrobatic, improved movement, ignores elevated terrain, ignores hindering terrain. A trait, which is these are, which I mean that alone, the improvement really is very appropriate, as Tom was highlighting what's missing from the other one. The trait is these are the X-Men that I remember. If there's a friendly character on the map with the all-new X-Men or X-Men keywords that has the same name but a different collector number than another character on the map, Beast can use probability control. Now, this may sound like, one of those, it is the solstice and the color of the moon is red kind of traits.
It sure does.
Yeah.
We even said as much on this very cast.
We have. Yes, we have. But I've used this. I used him on a team with two different Magnetos to great effect. And basically, the end of this is that it gives him probability control if you can meet those requirements. There are many ways of doing that. Yes, even in sealed in this set, you may end up with two Magnetos, for instance, and him. It is possible to have that occur, or other characters for that matter, including Sabretooth or Wolverine or Storm or even Juggernaut. Those 2 Juggernauts, holy crap, those guys are good. I'm surprised actually we didn't talk about the uncommon Juggernaut because he is quite good.
He's up there.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so moving on from that, we also have a special defense power, top dial. As you can see, it's actually the first 4 clicks out of his 7 clicks. Beast can use combat reflexes, super senses, and toughness. Fantastic. Great up close. He's a 20 up close. Like, come on. On top of that, we have the special. This is the real highlight here, though. The special damage power that he has. Yes, smartest mutant simian man in the room. Beast can use Outwit. When he does, instead of targeting one character within range and line of fire, he may choose to target every opposing character within 4 squares and choose a power on each of them to counter. It's not choosing one power that they all share. It's choosing an individual power on each individual character within that 4. Absolutely spectacular. Like, that Outwit is a game changer in many matchups, especially in this set. There's so much close combat in Sealed for this. You're just going to be out there completely disabling people from getting to you with their move and attack, or preventing them from using their defenses, and then maybe you'll have the odd pulse wave, because there are a couple sources of pulse wave in this set, including that the rare prime Sunfire, or if that 50-point Magneto that Tom was talking about gets knocked down to his 3rd click, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, I believe, click, all have the pulse wave, 10 attack, 9 and 9. You're going to be able to use this to great effect. Not the pulse wave is absolutely incredible. Although you don't need to do that for pulse wave anyway. I just caught myself in that, but I do that often. So that being said, he's 7 clicks for 100 points of absolutely spectacular. He is an incredible, incredible piece, and I hope that all that desire him do open him. And I actually have one of him, so I am very lucky. Going from there, look at me. Going from there, we've got Iceman, the SR Iceman that Tom was talking about. He is my absolute favorite piece from this set. I know that Scott Porter was absolutely amazed when he pulled him as well in his unboxing. Aside from having the most amazing sculpt, which I will show to you guys momentarily, he has Defenders and X-Men. Defenders very, very useful, especially with the sheer number of Defenders that are out there right now. And before retirement happens, you can play him with with Angel from Days of Future Past, who actually gives the keywords to other people as well, and it's really cool. The main thing, though, to note here, okay, I play him. I've been playing him possessed by Ophidian. Now, this is a very, very brief combination, but you can also achieve a similar effect by using the Greed relic, or a couple other relics as well, because they all give sidestep. But giving him sidestep along with what he actually already has, well, in the case of Ophidian, giving him Pulse Wave is another option as well.
There's a ton of sources for sidestep.
There's just
even moving forward.
So much sidestep. Yeah, there's just so much sidestep that's around. Having him, because his ability, this is the Ice Wall ability, that little piece that comes with it that you can put on, like the FX space that goes underneath people. So when Iceman moves, it's not when he takes a move action, it's when he moves. After actions resolve, you may make a close attack targeting a single opposing character whose square he moved through, and that you didn't target with an attack that action. If you hit, attach the Ice Wall marker to that character, removing it from any other character, as long as the Ice Wall marker is attached, that character can't be moved, placed, or given actions, or targeted with an attack. At the end of the next turn, remove the Ice Wall marker. So that's not all. You combine that with his actual special damage power. When Iceman hits an opposing character after actions resolve, you may give that character an action token. They do combine. They combine really well. So you're basically tokening them out. If they have no tokens, they get a token, plus they're not able to do anything on their next turn, and you're possibly giving them another token on their next turn anyway. But on top of that, you are able, like, that special damage power applies to all attacks, and you're generally going to be able to do more than one attack. So, without sidestep, he's going to be doing 2 attacks. With sidestep, he can do 3 attacks, in fact, per turn. for the first 2 turns. Try and give him willpower somehow, and then excuse me, and then do an additional, like the 1 attack using the sidestep on his 3rd turn. So he's attacking every single turn. He is absolutely incredible. Get him knocked down to his last 2 clicks. He does have regeneration, so he can get back up after being whomped. And he's only 110 points for all of that. Absolutely broken. Completely incredible. Absolutely amazing. I am losing my mind. All right. So yeah, that pretty much covers him. He's just so freaking good. I'll show you guys the sculpt real quick here in person. He's absolutely beautiful. Look at that. It's absolutely incredible. And he does come with a molded plastic piece that he slots into, and you can keep, and it's customized to him so that this little flexible piece will not break.
All right, awesome. Whew, so yeah, those are our top 3, bottom 3. That's not necessarily all there is that's good in this set. As we said earlier, this set is good. Oh man, is this set good?
It's a good set.
So, now, if you want more in-depth, tune in next week. We're going to be starting a little earlier next week, but we are going to be doing our piece by piece because we found out a little while ago that X-Men is going to be the set that they use in Canadian Nationals. So with that being said, we're going to go from figure A to figure whatever else is pullable, and just talk about each figure and how they fit into the sealed game, along with just we're going to smoosh about them in general. We'll probably throw in our comments about how they were constructed. So that's just our favorites, or our highlights and lowlights of the set. While I'm getting set up for the next portion, where we're going to talk about an ROC Super Qualifier that happened in Alabama. In fact, the first one that was using the full-blown modern format. So we get to see the meta start to build itself, though without X-Men still. It's still just a taste of things that are going to be modified. But on that note, I just want to remind people that if you're on our Facebook or if you're watching currently on YouTube, use the comment sections for questions later on, and we will try to address them. And without further ado, let's talk about the top 4 in Alabama. I was going to go top 8, but we ran a little long on our excitement for X-Men, so let's get right to it. Now, this happened at in Alabama. The location was, I should have checked this up, and I done messed up and didn't do a little bit. Anyway, this is the Super Qualifier in Alabama. It happened. Oh, here we go. Huntsville, Alabama. JC House of Cards, 300-point modern format. 49 people in attendance.
Nice.
So, just so you get an idea. And these are going to be the top 4. Some of these are names I've seen already, or are very familiar. And I don't want to take away the top 8, top 16 players. All did very well in this event. I mean, and there's some names that we all recognize. Edward Sheldon,
Dark Matters.
David Gosselman, I know he's I think he's actually a fan or a viewer. I know I've seen him in groups before. Michael Smith. Don't want to take away from you guys, but we were just constricted on time. So congrats to all those guys. But let's get to the top 4. Starting with Terry Turman, the head judge arbiter, or the head
Terminator,
also known as Terminator on the Realms. His team consisted of Coriander, the 100-point monthly OP kit figure, with Ophidian, assigned the Red Hood in the Outlaws ATA. A second Coriander, this time with Adara, also with Red Hood in the Outlaws ATA, and an orange power battery with a decoy, nurse, crossbow, bulldozer. This is one of those teams that's taking super advantage of just how good in general Coriander is. She's got a thick dial. She's just a really good character overall. And using 2 of them is not a bad thing. And those of you unfamiliar, I got it pulled up here, the Red Hood and the Outlaws ATA, opposing characters with the highest point value on their force can't draw lines of fire to characters using this team ability. So with both characters with that, and if you have a character who's higher points, or one character stands out, they're not drawing line of fire to Coriander. Coriander goes, takes out something low point, and just runs.
Yeah. It's a great little way of because the double coriander, of course, also means that there isn't a highest point character on your force, so it's Highfather proof, it's Nick Fury proof. It's not really copycat proof, but that hardly matters when two figures are both equally capable of doing what they need to do. You've got healing potential, you've got outstanding powers that you can take for coriander, and of course, coriander's already outstanding in their own right, and of course, you can take powers away. So there's a lot. There's control, there's plasticity, and it's not being able to be targeted by the highest point character on the opposing, or not draw a line of fire, I guess, by the highest point opposing character is a real problem. And that's absolutely almost unquestionably the best TA and ATA in the game, only limited by the fact that so few characters qualify for it. But yeah, but Coriander absolutely does, and is a great piece in their own right. So there's no surprise that this is a dominating team.
Mike?
Fantastic, absolutely amazing. I'm really glad to see Terry actually in top 4. I met him in person at Rocktober last year, and he ran the event really, really well. So it's good to see him actually not having to run an event and go ahead and get to play. I mean, it looks great overall. As Tom already talked about, Red Hood and the Outlaws is absolutely amazing. So yeah, great overall.
All right. So next we move on. Third place, Marshall Lawing. I'm guessing third place because of ordering, by the way. So his team had Phantom Girl with Proselyte, Nighthawk Prime, assigned entity, Mr. Mrs. Pitlick, and a green power battery with an axe, a wall, a catapult, a decoy.
Is this person actually a troll? Can you zoom in on the picture? I can't tell.
It would appear that he is in fact human.
Okay, I was confused.
He's a halfling that's had the ring on a little too long.
But yeah, this is a team that's not going to let you use your toys at all.
Yeah, Team Aggravation 1.0.
No kidding. No kidding.
You got to get that Phantom Girl out of your face in
So
the first
annoying.
place, and then outside of
Very
that,
powerful.
yeah, this is potently obnoxious to best describe it. So Marshall has come up with a way to make you just sit down and go, come on, even without a Faust.
Yep.
All right, so we move on to second place, Warren Jin. Again, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, so I apologize. He's got Spiral assigned Black Hand, a nice. Justin Seifert, Ultron 6, Baxter Stockman, a Brimstone, and the Brimstone at 20, and Adam at 15, the Retaliations.
Retaliation, yeah.
A Shield level 7 ID card with Nick Fury sideline for it, and a Power Plant with 9 out of 10 rings.
Very cool.
Yep. What more do you want, really? You get a nice deep dial with starting pulse wave. Give it some running shot. Get Baxter Stockman to pump it up. Get Justin Saber to send it across the board. Get the power plant to turn it into a killing machine. And then whatever happens to be in your way withers and dies before you even know what happened.
Yeah, Ultron 6 clearing the way as well with the ignores blocking terrain.
Yeah. Because at first glance, I'm going to use an indoor map. Well, Ultron 6 says, now it's outdoor. Yeah. So, this is really cool. And it's the robots are there, guys, and they're not going anywhere.
Super good.
Be aware and be
robots.
Ready.
Love them so much.
So, and in first place, a name we've seen in the top before, Mr. Easton Brock.
A.K.A. Maple Syrup. Yep.
He played a Phantom X with Proselyte. Ultron 18.2 at 30 points. Bill, Agent of AIM. Brimstone, Adam at 15 points. Shield level 7 ID card with Nick Fury. And a Batman ID card, of course, with Trinity War Batman. And a Black Panther ID card with the Civil War Black Panther. And then he's got an Indigo Power Ring with stuff, with a sniper rifle, bulldozer, spotlight. Now, here's the thing that I want to point out about this is you got Phantom X, right? Mm-hmm. He puts Eva out, so he can see Eva. So how do you deal with that? You kill the Eva. Well, now you've killed the Eva, deal with retaliation clicks. Mm-hmm. Because, and that's the way I see this going down a lot is, this Eva's going to be a problem. I need to kill it. What do you mean there is now to a Brimstone and an Atom jumping on my head. And of course, Bill being in the starting area next to Phantom X says, "Hey, I'm gonna make you work, so or I'm gonna make it so you can see things." And yeah, overall, Indigo Power Battery just makes Phantom X numbers huge because he's got Proselyte on. Proselyte will eventually give him powers middle of the dial, though I don't think you'll be seeing the middle of the dial of Phantom X too frequently with this team.
No. Nope. Powerful. It's nice to see, like, Easton always plays as well. It's nice to see Easton come out on top. Not by any means for the first time. He's won quite a lot. But it's nice to see it happen again because he's a consummate professional. He almost never plays the same team twice at a major tournament, it seems like. He loves to cycle through things. He's a man of 1,000 ideas. And obviously, big congratulations for making it Phantom X worthy of being burned before being retired.
I got a couple more. We can do a little bonfire for him one day.
Yeah.
But for those of you who are interested in checking out more details on this, check it out at majesticccg.com/apex-insiders. This is a free article, so you should be able to get access to it to get a good look at all of the top 16. The whole top 16 is there. We're running short of time because we do have to get to our fan questions. So before we get to that, I just want to remind you, as we've mentioned our sponsors before, if you're not interested in poking at our sponsors for a little bit of money, do check out our Patreon at patreon.com/marriedwithclicks. If you're interested, just want to mention that this Friday will be our patron hangout, and we're going to be doing our quarterly appearance by the Metal Lab. Unfortunately, Tom won't be able to make it this week.
I'll make it to another one.
But Mike is going to be joining us on Friday for the patron hangout. So if you have any questions for him, as well as myself or Amber, and you aren't going to Civil War on Friday night, because it will be crowded, by all means, join us for that. If you want to get in on that, patreon.com/marriedwithclicks, and just about any patronage will get you in on that show. We'll get you all the details on that on the Friday night. But without further ado, let's get the fan questions. So if you have any of those, if you're watching on YouTube, put it in the comments below. If you followed the link from Facebook, put it in the comments in the link from Facebook, and we'll get to it. In the meantime, we're going to start with Chris Smotherman. Last week's charts and graphs were awesome. Can't wait to hear you guys' top 3 to 5 favorite figures from UXM. Well, we hope you enjoyed it, Chris.
Yeah, we did it. So we had fun.
I'm not a huge X-Men fan, but I wasn't a Deadpool fan either, and then along came Heroclix, and now I find myself interested in so many more characters that I ever knew existed. My favorite is Malice, and what she brings to the table for 75 points. And she works kind of like the entities used to work, denying your opponent points when she would be KO'd and beefing up another character. Yeah, I do find myself tangentially reading comics because of Heroclix very often. It's why I became a Green Arrow fan, as a matter of fact. And I do like Malice's. I like Malice a lot. I can't believe that's a 75-point character.
She's crazy.
Yeah, super good. Yeah. And it's a very good point. The whole point denial is outstanding on her. You get all the good, and really not a lot of the bad.
All right. So next up, Robert Guy. I believe that the Metal Lab needs an opening theme song a la 1979 Super Friends. If I was any sort of a musician, Tom, you're a musician, right?
Yeah, of sorts.
Do you have time?
I'll see what I can do.
Tom, I think you should sing it a cappella.
Well, no, but we got to get like an announcer voice or something to work for it. Tom's got an announcer voice. I'm kidding.
Yeah,
he's got a wonderful.
What are you talking about?
I mean, he's
no problem.
As an example, gather together from the cosmic reaches of Canada. Here is the great hall of the. Yeah, okay, I'm not going through all of that, but something like that we've been thinking about for a while. Part of what we got to do that, I need to look into a different format as far as broadcasting. I've been starting to look into the options that come through gaming.youtube.com and starting to look at what it's going to take to get overlays and get everything pretty going. But
I'll talk to you about that afterwards, actually, because
yeah,
on the other cast that we do that.
Yeah. So it's one of those things we're looking to make things better. I just time and effort are not on my side right now.
In the world of tomorrow, the Metal Lab gets together.
I was thinking something about like Tales from the Crypt, because we're a bunch of mad scientists
Yeah.
in some kind of shop of horrors.
I had always had it more in mind that it would be something like the old Frankenstein Dracula Universal Films type opening scores that have this symphonic string stuff that's slightly out of tune because of the bad record quality at the time and like bubbling cauldrons and things.
Yeah, I was going for more of a Dragon Ball Piccolo, thing, because we are all over 9,000, right? So there is that. Go on.
But now he does actually have a question.
Okay.
What's your favorite map to use, and what is your favorite Colossal Retaliation? I think my favorite map right now, well, anything with the word Krakoa, and when you include Krakoa Jr. in the Jean Grey School of the Mutants, it's got a long-ass name, but it's a new map from the pre-release that had Krakoa Jr. on it. So yeah, that wins now. It's a wide open space, but whatever. And my favorite Retaliation is still the Superman Batman robot because it just destroys everything in sight nearby it. Tom?
My favorite map, it's hard to say because it very much depends on the team that you're playing, and I like my favorite thing about maps is versatility. If I had to pick one out of the air, though, I would have to say the Avengers Tower from the Age of Ultron movie set. The Age of Ultron movie starter came with one where the two ends of the map are largely blocked off by a change in elevation and a wall that run through most of the width of the map. So the only ways around that wall are to go to the far sides, and even on those far sides, you still have to change the elevation. So there is no real straight shot from one side to the other. Although it's far enough out, you can still get a good TK swing. Past that point, there's a lot of hindering terrain. There's lots of blocking and different elevation changes. So it's a great map for being able to stick and move, make your way around, and cut off lines of fire. But by the same token, it's got a little bit of everything. So anybody who excels in a map that's based on any one type of terrain will hopefully be stymied by another one. Anyone who can get through absolutely everything loves it and lives it. And those who have a problem with everything can still get around if they need to. So I find it versatile enough to work with a lot of different builds, and because I know it so well, I've been able to use it to pretty good effect, particularly in sealed, because it's got so much going on that people don't always have the ability to make their formations work in sealed if they don't know what they're getting into, and it's a map I've used enough times so that I really know it like the back of my hand. So that's my favorite. And my favorite Retaliation is probably the monkey. To be fair, I haven't played yet with any of them enough, so it's just a monkey because monkeys are fun.
He does attack twice.
Yes, he does attack twice. I find Solaris works a little better, but
yeah. Well, Solaris is tokens, right? Actually, Solaris is the one I was going to choose.
Yeah.
Because the whole tokening everybody thing is pretty awesome.
12 attacks, nice too.
And the fact that it doesn't affect your own characters. Yeah, 12 attacks is really nice, and the fact that it doesn't affect your own characters is really nice. But in terms of maps, I've got one for two different reasons. My pure new love shenanigan-y map is Baby Krakoa, which is the new one that came in the pre-release. I love that level of just silly, make it work if you really want it to work, kind of orange text, and it's a much less violent version of Krakoa. It's not really going to win the game for you. Compared to the older one that was before my time, granted, but and then when it comes to just maps that I like overall, I really like the Thunderbolt's submarine. Actually, I think it's really cool because it gives you a lot of control with walls and everything else. It gives you the ability to cover up if you really need to, depending on how your team is comprised. But also, it gives you it has that straight shot down the middle. So and I'm thinking of batteries when I'm thinking of this as well. So your battery, when it gets into those later clicks, can actually see straight down and help you out further down. I like to use barrier a lot with the batteries to help move them along, but also to help your team kind of cover up because I don't like giving away points. That's just not what I like doing. And then the revised orange text as well. When you miss with an attack, a ranged combat attack, it hits the sides and actually causes punctures in the submarine and water starts flowing in. I love that. I think that's really, really fun. Exactly, Jason. Jason was demonstrating there. Really fun stuff to use. But yeah, Solaris and those two maps.
All right. So the next question we have comes from Matt Wallace. What's up, guys? With all the info in the unit section, what would either your favorite or most likely to make noise in the meta from each rarity slot for the Uncanny X-Men? I should have read that ahead of time. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to hear more, check out next week's episode when we talk in depth about the entire set. We're probably gonna be starting that one around 8:30, a little earlier.
Yeah, it's a big set review.
It takes a while to do that. We'll probably be a little bit more prepped than we were for World's Finest, but ultimately
we did great with World's Finest, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
We did pretty good. So Rich Allen, not sure if I'm getting this out in time, but I wanted to say thank you to the Meta Lab for the primer on Uncanny X-Men last week. I went 3-0 because of your tips. My team was Uncommon Jean Grey, Uncommon Cyclops, Blockbuster, and Chase Sunfire. We do love hearing when you guys do well and say that we helped you.
Yeah. It really helps our egos, even if they may not entirely be true. But
Oh, look, what's that? Oh, it's a feather in our caps. Yeah.
Wait, hold on. The ego's getting a little big. All right, there we go.
Yeah.
Your ego is outside of your body? That's pretty weird.
It can't fit in this, man. I'm fat enough as it is.
But that's a good little team. I like the versatility. That's
fun.
Yeah, themey, right? Like, what was the third pick?
He had Jean Grey, Uncommon Cyclops, Blockbuster, and Chase Sunfire.
Oh, Blockbuster. So yeah, he didn't actually have the X-Men themes. Too bad. All the same, lots going on. You got some good tie-up. You got some good run and gun, and you got some control. So it's nice to have that balance. Good for you. Hold on.
Yeah. All right, Charles L. Franklin. So now that most of us have played with both sets, do you prefer Turtles or Uncanny X-Men? X-Men for me.
Yeah, it's X-Men. Turtles
X-Men.
are too. Turtles are too samey. I like Turtles fine, but
I've painted a couple of the Turtles, actually 3 of them as of now. So I'm really enjoying the just fanboyness of that set. But I'm a much bigger fan in general of X-Men, and the set itself is a lot more competitive. Yeah. Even though the Turtles are good, and there are some good pieces out of it that you could use, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of them. Overall, the X-Men set is the best set that we've had in ever, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
It's also hard, frankly, to compare a 60-piece set to the Turtles.
35.
You know? Yeah. 35. There's a lot more to like.
All right, so there's a couple comments throughout that Nathaniel White, he was kind of agreeing and disagreeing with us. How can we not mention Riptide or the Uncommon Jug? Because we had Riptide's good, Juggernaut's good. They didn't fit into that level. Talk to us next week.
Yeah, there are reasons. They are
really good.
They'll definitely, spoiler alert, they'll both be getting thumbs up when we do the thumbs. But there are reasons why they weren't in my top.
Don't react like they're in our bottom 3, even though our bottom 3 were all really good. Because the whole set is really, really good. No, they were just out of reach for sure.
They're also our favorites, right? I mean, at least in my case, that certainly is the case. It's hard to be objective about what's going to be the most meta thing, but considering we like, with the tenet in there that we do like competitive play, our top 3 was basically the 3 that we're most excited about, not necessarily what we are being forecasting as the most meta.
Exactly. I mean, Sugarman might not even be one of the best characters in the game. I really like him. I'm having so much fun with
Jason. Sugarman.
Oh man. He also agreed that he loves the starter Iron Man at 50-45 points.
Yep.
So yeah.
Good piece.
All right, and then we move into the YouTube comments. We actually have a couple. Now that it's so good to have that working again. I can't wait to. Oh, it's so wonderful. Don Prophet, hey, have you guys heard of any way to get more than one of Dr. Demonicus' Pogs on the board at a time? Well, considering he's unique, you can't do it with 2 of him, so that doesn't work. And he only allows 1 at a time, and the new mind control rules don't allow that. So I don't think you can get 2 at a time unless somebody figured out shenanigans.
I don't think it's possible right now.
Copycat and get lucky.
Copycat, that might be a thing.
But you can't design for that, so yeah.
So I don't think there's anything that doesn't involve copycat that lets you do that. So Jose Rodriguez, with the new wave of X-Clicks, do you think any of the chases will hit the meta stage? I pulled the chase Weapon X, and he didn't really do that well. The Weapon X and the Colossus, in my eyes, they're cool. They're the fun chases out of this, but you picked one of the 2, I think, least competitive of the chases in this set, in my opinion. I mean, they're both okay. I pulled the Colossus, and I looked at him and said, I'm not going to bring him to any tournaments anytime soon as far as the high level of play. Mostly, when you got things like Sunfire and Magneto in this that really stand out to you. So, but there's going to be a couple. Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say, by and large, if we're talking about things that we can really solidly hope are going to make a big splash in the competitive scene, it generally is either something that's doing something we've never seen before, that's significant, or something that is simply the apex version of something that we have seen before. You know, the KC Flash, the KC, KCs weren't doing anything we hadn't seen before, but they all have outstanding powers and numbers that set a new precedent. So it makes sense for them to get through. The entities were, new, something that had never really been seen before that point, and so they made it through. The chases in this set don't really fall into either of those categories. Sabretooth and Wildchild are highly aggressive, but by the same token, I don't want to say soft because they're not soft in the big scheme of softness, but they need help defensively that they may or may not actually get. Magneto is cool, but I don't think that he's I don't think he's quite 150 points worth of cool as far as the larger competitive game is concerned. So and Sugar Man is very, very tricky. He's great, super good. I don't personally see that any of these are going to change the shape of the higher competitive game, even if at least a couple of them may have a modest presence.
Yeah, I think the super rares are a lot more likely to make a splash.
Yes,
particular set, and that's kind of good. That's good in a lot of ways because a lot more people have access to them, right? Rather than it being the whole pay-to-win style of team building, rather. These SRs are quite expensive on the secondary market, but if you try hard enough, you're going to pull them.
Yeah. So, like they all said, Sugarman's going to be the best.
I actually do like Sugarman as a possible one too, because he's 120 points. His stats are pretty good, and he does some pretty neat stuff.
He's got a deep dial and a stop click, and he does things for your team, and he's very hard to KO at the end. As Jason said, he kind of becomes semi-Patella, so there's a little bit of point denial there. So yeah, I would say that Sugarman's probably the most, the best, the most capable. But Sugarman.
And Sunfire for his points does have a lot of potential.
Sugarman. Yeah, Sunfire season.
Yeah. So that's kind of where
Prime a little bit because they're pretty good.
Yeah. All right. So with that, I do believe that is. I'm going to give a quick refresh, but it looks like that's all of our questions for the day.
All right.
So I do want to thank all of our fans for asking, and we got out here semi-reasonable. The usual amount of time. It usually takes about 2 hours to do this. So without further ado, I want to thank our sponsors, HCRealms.com. Check out the shop section and get some cool stuff while you're checking out. Put in the coupon code Mary for 10% off of your purchase. I also want to thank MajesticCCG.com. Check out the Apex Insiders Premium site, $3 per month for some articles from some awesome people, and regular updates and quick updates on Rock tournaments. As mentioned before, that was this weekend's Rock. It actually runs a little faster than the HC Realms does about getting the articles up. So I want to thank them for that. And, of course, if you want to support us directly, check us out at patreon.com/Heroclix. I do also want to thank all of our patrons for all their support that they've been giving us so far. They've been helping to make things go a lot better. And this week we have a ton of filming happening this week with all kinds of awesomeness happening. And Amber's work schedule is starting to cool off. So back to content creation, as it were. I also want to thank Tom and Mike for being on the show, as always. And
thank you.
Remember, guys, getting into the new set, when you're opening up those packs and you're cracking open the seal, getting ready for Nationals, just remember that practice
makes
your
team
better.
Hey! Have a good week, folks.